Hi everyone, my name's Eric. In this video, I'm going to give you a little inside look behind the creative process of my N64 Fox McCloud cosplay. I chose this cosplay for MagFest 2019 because I wanted to celebrate this year's festival theme, as well as the recent release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I really enjoyed making this costume, and I hope you enjoy it.
Good luck!
I started by searching for a 3D model of Fox McCloud from Super Smash Bros. It was surprisingly hard to find. Luckily, a user named ComJ mentioned that they had recently uploaded the model to themodelsresource.com. I guess it was stuck somewhere waiting for approval, so I simply sent a message to ComJ asking if they could send it to me personally, which they graciously did. I opened up Fox's model in Blender and began deleting the parts that I wouldn't need. Once I had just his head remaining, I did a little bit of cleanup, merging parts, removing duplicate vertices, that kind of stuff. After I was happy with the cleaned up model, I saved it and exported an OBJ version that I would use in Pepakura. Pepakura Designer 4 is a computer program that can make paper models from 3D objects. The model opened easily and I specified the scale of the head. I figured 18 inches wide would leave plenty of room for my head to fit, plus it would match the cartoony proportions I was looking for. I then unfolded the 3D model and started disjoining the faces. After that, I rearranged the layout and made sure that no pieces were overlapping. Then, this next step is important, I changed the size of the flaps. I set the size for all flaps to 0, which removed them completely. The flaps really would have only been useful if I was making the model from larger pieces of material that would have been folded. But my plan was to cut and glue each piece individually, that way they'd have the sharpest, low poly edges possible. Each polygon was cut, traced onto EVA foam, and cut out using a knife. I did my best to bevel each piece as I cut them, but I had to clean them all up later using my Dremel. This would let me glue each piece together at the angle I wanted while providing enough surface area for each piece to form a strong bond. One problem with this approach, however, was that it would leave large gaps in the foam. To correct this, I cut thin strips of foam that I then glued into the gaps, which improved the structural integrity of the mask. Like I mentioned before, I needed to reinforce the inside, and I've already started to do that. You can see where I put in some wedges into the gaps. I give it a little bit more rigidity, a little bit of structure. But it doesn't look like there's too much more that I need to do on the inside. We'll see as this goes on if I need to add more in other places. As I kept going, I developed a new technique where I would cut a chunk out of the edge of each piece of foam. This gave the pieces more surface area to adhere to, but at the same time created problems getting the pieces to fit properly. Nevertheless, I continued onward. I was just about finished with Fox's head when I started having doubts about how it was coming along. Several parts weren't fitting together as planned, and I was becoming increasingly concerned about its durability. I began looking into alternative materials such as Worbla and Sintra, and began planning to build a second version. In a stroke of luck, I got connected with a scenery design studio called Cigar Box Studios, located in Marlboro, New York. They liked what I was working on, and generously offered to cut pieces for a new helmet out of some scrap Sintra they had. The pieces were cut on a routing table and were much more precise than the hand-cut pieces of foam I had previously made. Unlike EVA foam, Sintra is much thinner. My method of beveling edges wouldn't work this time, so I needed to figure out a way of adding gluable surfaces to each polygon. I came up with a solution that also improved the accuracy of the finished product too. I enabled a feature in Blender that would display the angle of each edge of every polygon. Using my digital angle finder, I cut multiple foam wedges that I used to support every piece of Sintra. I wasn't exactly sure that this method would work, but I at least had a foam version that I could fall back on in case the Sintra version didn't work out. I cut holes for the eyes, filled the open seams with auto body filler, and began painting the helmet. The majority of it was painted with spray paint, while features like the eyes, nose, and mouth were painted by hand. I finished the remaining pieces of the costume a few days before MagFest started, and on January 2nd, I loaded everything into my car and headed down to National Harbor. The following day, I geared up, donned a helmet, and got to see the fruits of my labor.
Let's rock and roll!
Fox McCloud was a hit. I met so many cool people, made new friends, and took part in a Smash Brothers photo shoot just like I hoped.
We're Star Fox! All range mode!
Hiya!
Andros won't have his way with me. Hey! The force field is disappearing!
I was touched to see and hear how many people liked my costume. It was incredibly fun to cosplay as N64 Fox McCloud, and I hoped you liked watching how it all came together. If you want to check out more of my cosplay, check out this video I made when I cosplayed as Dr. Sung from Twerp back in 2016. Thanks again, and I'll catch you at the next video. Peace out.